GM, everyone. This is Dr. Josh. I'm here with Mikael Björn. Mikael Björn is the CTO of the Hashgraph Association. Hashgraph Association is associated with Hedera, H-bar token. I'm going to ask him a few questions about that. But what I've found also, so we're here, and you can see in the background, this is the Agora event in Dubai. Agora has an amazing concept where they're doing matchmaking between VCs and funds and startups, chosen and selected startups, where you can have these one-to-one conversations, but you also have these keynote panels. And of course, Mr. Björn was one of the keynotes, and we get to have 10 minutes of his time to talk about Hashgraph Association, but also we had just a very interesting pre-discussion here about the different chains. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about yourself, because you are in a CTO position, Chief Technical Officer position, but you also have a background in sales and marketing. So he's such an interesting person here, and I just want to ask you, wow, how did you come into this space, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Probably, you said that I was on the OGs before. Well, I did my first hack on a computer in 1978.
That's when I was born, y'all, and I'm an old man.
I was on the internet in 1984. So I've been in the game for quite a while. Always seen sort of the solution as the driver for me. So I always said, oh, a problem, oh, that's fun. Let's find a way to solve that problem. And then it's to solve it, and then you have another problem, and you start doing that as well. I was playing games and building games and things during the 80s, and then sort of going forward, I went into the internet. I went to university, sort of an engineering physicist with a math sort of thingy on the side, which brought me into a lot of software development, the internet, also of course during the 90s, quite interesting. Worked for the telco at that time. Was also actually bringing out the first yellow pages on the internet in 1996.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was before BT did it. It was a really fun. Telia we did that.
Where was that?
In Sweden.
In Sweden?
Yeah. So that was the first thing in 1996, and then the
fun fact.
99. Sort of the whole .com era came around. Everybody was 10 years ahead of themselves. So. But the thing is that if you look at all these cycles, every time there's a crash, the ones who survive will be successful. Look at Google, look at sort of Amazon. All these guys were really sort of feeling the heat in the beginning of the 2000s. And look where they are now. So yeah. It's sort of So 2009, friends of mine, being in sort of a math nerd, sent me a couple of papers. Some Japanese guy that sort of got something up and running, and we were playing around with the toys and the Satoshi papers, of course.
Yeah, some Japanese pseudonym.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're talking about Satoshi Nakamoto, of course.
Yeah, so we were setting up sort of a network of stuff that we were running on our own small PCs at home, and we were having fun. We saw it as a game. So that's the problem with us engineers, is that we see things not as something that you will sort of see in the long term. It's like, it's a problem, let's solve it, and it's fun, and okay, and have no problem, and do something like that. So I let it be. Lost my first 100 bitcoins in 2011 because it was like, I don't have a clue where they are, sort of the keys or anything.
Right, this key, this
yeah,
thing.
So that was sort of, so I usually say that you Americans who listen to this, don't complain about the fees you're paying for your tuition. I probably have the most expensive education ever.
100 bitcoin.
At that point, that was quite a number.
I don't know, that might compare with
nowadays it's probably nowadays
degree.
It's probably oh, poor you. No, so then I went into a lot of different sort of startups, did a lot of, so I've been sort of doing a lot of business and sort of technology. I ended up at Sun Microsystems, first as sort of running services, technology services to my clients, and then so I was running a global account, said that, well, I'm leaving, I'm doing something else. Mikael should take over. So I suddenly was sitting with an account that was worth $125 million.
Okay.
And I had never done sales in my life. Things happen. And being an engineer, what you do? Well, you engineer the crap out of it.
Yeah.
So and that we kept that running until Oracle bought us, and I left because we were an engineering shop and Oracle was not. And then I've been sort of running around in the sort of the crypto space, doing math-related stuff, building crypto libraries, which you're not supposed to do. Crypto 101, never roll your own libraries. We did that for our customers, which were, shall we say, can't name the names of the customers, but
you can tell us. But you can. They're substantial people. Obviously, you know who the council members are of Hedera, and if you don't know, check it out because it's pretty substantial. But wait a second, why shouldn't we do libraries? Just help us out here.
Because it's sort of when it does the crypto libraries, sort of the real cryptographic libraries. You need that's sort of an effort of the community. Because there's so many things that can go wrong. And what you see a lot of times is that when you look at the libraries, so sort of SSL was broken for quite a while, and that was dependent on one of the libraries not being substantially looked at by sort of as many eyeballs as you wanted to, so you could actually find the bugs in there. So in some instances you had the way to crack a communication channel by looking at the number of the length of the key, and suddenly you could force the sort of communications to downgrade into a level that you could crack with an iPhone.
I see. Okay, so security is a really important thing.
Yeah.
Let's lead from there. What is special about Hashgraph as opposed to blockchain in the traditional sense that we think of it, and in terms of security, in terms of speed, and things like that? Give us the quick overview for people that aren't initiated into the power of Hedera.
So in this traditional blockchain, what you have is sort of, it's a chain of blocks where you have the previous block, you have the hash, you put that in the next block, and then you hash that and go. So every time you need to find something, you have to sort of traverse the chain back and forth, and that can be quite, heavy if you want to.
Yeah.
You also need to keep a lot of history in there.
Right.
So what the guys who invented the Hashgraph, the Hedera Hashgraph, sort of thought about, can we describe that kind of a ledger in another way? And came up with a graph is probably a better way to do that. So you connect a lot of different blocks together and you create a graph instead of doing a chain. That means that you don't have to carry around a lot of history, because you can sort of, by deducting from the results of the other sort of blocks around you, you can say that, this is actually true. So that means that you have a much quicker way of reaching consensus. You have a much quicker way to actually finalize the transaction. You don't need the amount of energy that you would need if you are running a traditional blockchain.
Okay.
And you can also, build a chain that you can calculate the fees. So you can have a fixed fee on chain, which is also quite unique. So you can actually bring that to your finance officer, saying that I have a budget for my crypto project,
and it's got
and it's going to be fixed. So if we have X transactions, X times K equals F. It's
straightforward.
It's very straightforward, and that's sort of the things. And when I started working with Hedera, that was my first question. It's like, hey guys, why haven't you taken over the world? Because you have all the USPs that any chain are chasing.
Yeah, is that? But that's much more of a sales question than it is an engineering question. So that you bringing in your multiple backgrounds of experience. What was their answer? We don't know. That's why we hired you.
No, not exactly. The reason was that it was during the bull run last time. They were sort of more or less ready to go. Yeah. But then you had all the regulation guys coming in, and so they're rattle the cages. And these guys are engineers, so they're like, I don't like that, so let's keep a low profile for a while. So the whole bull run happened. Hedera was chugging along, didn't do too much of a noise of itself, and I think that today is a good thing, because all the other chains has been more or less pushed into a corner to be what the market has sort of deemed them to be.
I see. It was, with high expectations, they set the bar higher.
Yeah.
And now the big letdown is
and also
taking a more even approach.
Yeah, and also what's happening is that you have had chains being sort of seen as, it's the creator chain, or it's the boring, slow business chain, or it's the value store chain.
Can you do this again? Because you in our previous conversation, you'd made all these different connections about the different chains about Cardano and Ethereum.
Yeah. So what I usually say is that if you sort of take the stereotypes of sort of the high school kids, it's sort of what you have is that Cardano is the nerds.
Cardano's a nerd.
Solana is the goth going around being the arty guy or girl. And then you have Ethereum. He's the jock more or less.
Okay.
The Bitcoin guys are probably some of the chess club guys. Very conservative, want to do one thing that's sort of not doing that. And there is the guy who's running a business in his basement, like the guys who started HP.
Yeah.
So, and I guess who's going to be the most successful in the world after a while.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, obviously we know what you think. So obviously, Bitcoiners would disagree with that.
Yeah, of course.
Now, but yet, what I see is Bitcoin is a brilliant invention, and it really is a game changer. However, it's a starting point. It's like the first computer, is like massive and slow and not too effective and has lots of problems in it, but it could still probably turn it on and run. Yeah. Whereas, a Hedera or one of these newer ideas that stemmed out of the concepts that Satoshi Nakamoto and Scott Stornetta and these guys laid out, that it's just so much more effective. Now, one of the things, though, that you didn't mention is that the guy in the basement who's making his entrepreneurship, he's got these rich parents, and they're also they're also successful business people, and he's got a network of all these big corporate people, and they're giving him a lot of help. The jocks over there and the artsy guys and these guys, they're kind of on their own, doing their own things. Ethereum is like kind of a rebellious idea made by Vitalik Buterin and all these guys, Cardano, and so forth and so on. But you guys are fully into the corporate zone and enterprise zone. Tell me more about how that goes into what you do as CTO, because we know there's a governance council, and the governance council is made of all these big corporations that have billions and billions of dollars. We know that creates a lot of good things like compliance, like money backing, financial backing, which is nice, but it's all connected to the US dollar and all these kind of systems that are somehow seen as anti-crypto. You know what I mean? Because crypto is kind of about freedom, about alternative finance, about releasing the control from these systems. How does that play into that ethos of the crypto world, or does that even matter? Because you guys are trying to solve problems for the business people and be that successful entrepreneur that started in the basement.
Well, one of the things I said that on stage yesterday is that I'm really happy that we had the crypto winter, or the bear market, because it's been forcing the whole crypto industry to start focusing on the real problems. The number of the problems that were solved in the bull run was I can do this fancy thing, and the lamps blinks here, and sort of, whoa, and then I have a virtual switch here, and I can turn it on. Okay, but how?
Virtual switch.
Well, how can you actually make anyone? And the thing was that during the pandemic as well, everybody was sitting at home and had lots of money and didn't know what to do with it, so they were throwing it into projects, so playing around with sort of investment schemes and a lot of things. So
gambling, kind of.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
And now where we actually have lost sort of a lot of that sort of, dope, sort of, doped up. The whole system was doped up on free cash. Now we actually have to do the real math again, saying that, if we do this, it actually has to benefit the client or the customer doing this. And that sort of brings us back to the initial promises that blockchain would, or the DLT at least, would help us with. So in logistics, it could be that, well, how do you keep a cold chain really, really secure for vaccine transports to the middle of Africa? Or what could make sort of that sort of pension fund actually be transparent? Or what could be sort of how can we actually track carbon credits instead of using the old banking system for that, and actually see where my sort of carbon footprint actually adds up to in the world. So things like that, which I think is really, really, now we can actually use this for good.
It's true. So it's kind of like this, what people talk about, the Gartner hype cycle, where things are really hyped and then they go down, and it comes up because of the valuable projects. You laugh.
Yeah, I laugh because I usually say that that's one of the most sort of important ways of looking at it. I don't mind what's on the hype curve, but it's just that it's very sort of a psychological projection of how we function as humans. It's like we get all psyched up about something, and it's like, whoa, and then we sort of try to sort, sort of. And then you sort of hit rock bottom, and then you start, well, I probably should start dating again. When people are
but
saying,
only the good ones.
But I will say that usually what people say is that, okay, so now you're wrong. And then I say, well, I'm just waiting for the thud behind me, which is AI.
Okay, thud behind me, AI. Tell us how that.
No, the thing is that they are also going through the same hype curve as everybody else. It's just that we will see, and we've seen a lot of backlash, ChatGPT and all the other general sort of models that we are looking at, and there will come a backlash on their side as well when they have to go back into the drawing room and say, what's the problem that we actually can fix with this? And I think that everybody that's tried to tell ChatGPT to present themselves as some person, so who in Mikael Björn, it's the most hilarious sort of bio you can get. It's like there's nothing true in there. It's just hallucination. So it's really fun.
Okay.
That's the thing. It's like that was where we in the crypto industry was 3 or 4 years ago.
Right. But but I see quite a bit of differences between the two industries. I mean, the practical application of ChatGPT or generative AI in the daily lives of the typical worker is much more significant than the application of blockchain technology for the daily person. But for things like, and this is where a lot of people don't understand, at the enterprise level or at the financial level, blockchain or Hashgraph is completely transformative. Contributing to freedom, to contributing to verification, contributing to all these other things. Now, one of the things that I think is really interesting, I'd love to talk about the ESGs and all that, and you mentioned those kind of applicable projects, and we do have an interview with Hanya Othman that you're going to see online, so make sure you take it out. She's a chief of sustainability for the MENA, Africa, and Europe region for Hedera, and she's an amazing speaker. She knows the content very, very well. Shout out to all the people, all our friends at Hedera, Mike Cave, Greg Scullard, Wes Geisenberger, amazing people at this blockchain, which also makes a huge difference, which we know about already with like the core contributors of other blockchains like Cardano and Ethereum. These are the things I like, is that you have, like with Lehman Baird, you have a clear, visible leadership. And this is also with Cardano, although it's a bit different type of dude, I'm sure you know. But this is what, with Bitcoin, actually, to some extent, kind of a concern for me as a person who likes to see leadership that takes responsibility and is willing to step out there with accountability. But as far as what we're talking about in all these chains, which is different than what you would assume about Hedera or about Hashgraph, it's decentralized.
Yes.
And so how important is that decentralization, and how important is it to actually get all these corporations and big law firms and universities on board with decentralization, as opposed to something that might be more effective or efficient, like the Hyperledger, which was centralized but didn't seem to take off. Where's the decentralization piece come in and important to you?
I used the example yesterday when someone asked me this, and this is sort of, if you look at an enterprise, if you have something like an SAP installation, you will have one SAP installation in every geography. And then you will have interfaces with these, and you will run batches sending data back and forth. And you end up in a mess where you don't know what the source of truth is. It's like, okay, who actually owns this data? Mm-hmm. If I was running a report in sort of Asia Pac based on data from Europe and do the reverse, and they differ, what's the problem here? So if you have one common source of truth in the form of a distributed ledger that you can use from whatever place in the world you want to, you sort of get rid of that problem of having sort of multiple data sources that claim to be the source of truth.